Hello everyone and welcome to the Creative Nowhere Land podcast. On this episode, we're joined by artist and illustrator Mukah Ispahani. Originally from Cameroon and now based in the UK, Ispah is an award-winning artist and has been recognised globally for his work. With a focus on mainly people and portraiture, Ispah is highly skilled across multiple mediums. But it was one style in particular, his intricate portraits using solely a ballpoint pen, that made his work stand out to me and led me to ask him to be a guest on the podcast. In this episode, we'll get into Ispah's creative journey and how he developed that style. We discuss what it's like growing up in Cameroon and the perception of artists within African culture. We also talk about Ispah discovering his talent and finding joy from art at a very young age, nurturing and pushing that talent, and eventually being recognised globally for his work. We also go into great detail about the difficulties of trying to be creative during times of civil unrest. Also how Ispah and his friends were giving back and trying to promote art to young people in Cameroon. And Ispah's journey to get to the UK and his goal to stay here with the hope of pursuing his art career further. This episode is stacked full of inspiring stuff. Be sure to check out the links to Ispah's work while you're listening to the podcast. Anyway, enough of me. Let's get into it. First of all, thanks for doing the Creative Nowhere Land podcast.
And thank you for having me.
It's my absolute pleasure. This is going to be quite an interesting one because we don't know each other very well. We had work in the same exhibition, a group show last year, I think it was, and I fell in love with your work, or the piece of work that I saw within that exhibition. Before we get onto that and the style of your work, you're originally from Cameroon. I want to know, how are artists perceived in Cameroon? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, because, when we talk about, artist perception in Cameroon, I think it's not just in Cameroon, but then in most African countries, we have the same or similar art culture. And I think that starts from the homes, the families. Because in Cameroon, we have this ideology, we have this idea that our kids are supposed to, go to school, and then when they finish from school, they become doctors or, engineers or accountants, all these big names,
or so-called proper jobs.
Yes.
Okay.
All these kind of jobs. And so that's just that's the mindset of a lot of Cameroonian parents. And that goes a long way to affect the way art is perceived in Cameroon. And so I would say that the value that we give to art, it's higher in this part of the world, like in the Western world, Europe, in America, the perception of art, in terms of the value and the worth, is greater as compared to Cameroon. But that notwithstanding, we love art. I mean, we have a very rich culture and we express art in different forms, because sometimes when we talk about art, it's not just about the painting, the visual arts, we also have things like sculpture, the rich culture, the traditional attires that we have. And so I'm looking at art in this broad sense. And Cameroon has a very rich culture, very rich artistic heritage. And this reflects in our daily life. But when it comes to art as a career, you want to become a painter, you want to become an illustrator, it's not something that is given serious consideration.
But that's what I was trying to get to, because I actually think that's a universal world thing. It's the starving artist syndrome, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, you're not going to make money as an artist. And everyone I've spoken to, whether they're artists from this country or from other countries, that's what I was trying to get down to, whether it was similar. Does, I guess, parental African culture go, no, I want my children to get a proper job that's full of security.
Yeah.
Artist is just not there. As I say, we go back to that starving artist syndrome. And I just wanted to nail down whether it was similar in Africa or Cameroon specifically.
Yeah, it is. Well, I'd say it's kind of like a global thing. I got a bit of it when I came here as well. I mean, like even established artists have asked me, like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, yeah, I do a job here and there, but then art is the main thing I like to take seriously. And you always have this look, in their faces. And, it's kind of like a universal thing, but in some places it's more amplified, I'd say. So,
but again, I think it's just getting down to that point that it's not a country, it's not a race thing. I think it's that starving artist thing that we always go back to being this worldwide problem. That It's interesting to me, having obviously no experience of growing up in an African community or whether that was the same, but it seems like it doesn't matter where you're from in the world, Africa, China, Asia, Australia, England, America, parents are not going to go, oh yeah, I really want my kids to be an artist.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, that seems to be the norm. Well, I'd say it's sad because, our very existence, is based on the foundation of arts. I mean, without artists, I think the world would be a boring place. I'll just link that. There was a time where, I think in my student days, I was like in my room. For some reason, I would always feel angry sometimes. And I was wondering, like, where is this anger coming from? And then one day I just decided to like paint my room. So I painted one side a bright blue color. The other side was kind of orange. I painted the other side a different color and the other different color. And suddenly my mood changed, because I had to be creative, I had to do something to my environment, and that actually affected my mood. And this can be emulated in so many things that we have around us. We design our houses, the way
we dress, like you're saying about Cameroonian fashion.
Yeah.
It's all bright colors, right?
Exactly. Bright colors, and all of that really affects the world. It makes the world a happy place, a happier place, I'd say. Yeah. So that's the reality of it.
It really is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, shall we go back then a bit and talk about what was growing up in Cameroon like? Right. What's your first experience of art and creating?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think my first experience with art, at least as far as I can remember, because my mom said I started drawing, at the age of 4. But I think I can remember maybe when I was 6 years old. I met a friend. Well, he was much older than me, and he did this drawing. I still remember it was a drawing of Sangoku. Yeah, okay. Like the character in Dragon Ball Z.
Okay, I might be showing my age there that I had no idea who that was. Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, okay. So he showed me the sketch, and when I saw that sketch, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And so I took it back home, and then I tried to, do the same thing. Spent hours and hours just looking at it, and I found joy, in seeing that drawing. And I think that was like my first encounter, where I knew inside of me, like, wow, this is what I was born for.
Wow.
Yeah, this is what I was born for. And yeah, the rest is history.
But it's history that we want to go into.
Yeah, of course.
This is the podcast.
We're going to go into the history, of course. And I remember moments where my mom would tell me, she said, when I was much younger, there was a time when my dad painted the wall of our house. And I went to the kitchen. I took like charcoal and I came and did something on the wall.
Okay.
I mean, in my mind, I was creating a work of art, I mean, I saw the blank wall, the bright wall as my canvas. And of course, my dad was so annoyed. Yeah. That was not the first time. I mean, I'd always find mediums to, express my creativity. So moving forward, in my primary school days, because of course, back in Cameroon, you have to start from nursery school. You have to go to primary school. I mean, here it might be called differently, but you go to primary school and then you go to secondary school.
No, all very similar here.
Yeah, high school and then go to university. So, in my primary school days, I'd always participate in, art programs, in any program we have in school, I would always stand out in my class. I mean, like every single class, I would always stand out as the artist. This is the creative one,
And can you remember what sort of work you're creating at this point?
I mean, at that point in time, it was mainly cartoons,
Okay.
Just like most children will do, would just draw cartoons, try to draw people, just draw things. And even when I went to the secondary school, I remember I would always draw at the back of my book, I remember I would always draw things like, maybe like a huge house. Like I'll imagine myself as a, a very wealthy man, a very rich man. And I'll be like, okay, how can my house be? And I'll draw this massive house, of course, at the back of my book. And I'll put like, maybe like 30 apartments in it. I'll be like, okay, this is where I'll park my helicopter. This, at the top we'll have a swimming pool. Down here we'll have this, So anything I could just imagine, I'll just put it there. Yeah, just, create characters, just let my imagination run wild. And when I was in, I think Form 3, my mom told me about this program. A program sponsored by a drink company, one of the biggest drink companies we have in Cameroon. So it's called Brasseries de Cameroon. So they make like drinks, sweet drinks, beer and all of that. And so they organized this program. I think it was one of the programs that they organized. Another one was called Top Cup. And that was to help, young people who were interested in playing football. So they'll like organize like a class, teach them how to play football, organize like tournaments for them. And the other one was the artistic side of it. So they'll run this during the holidays. And for you to get in, there would be like an exam. You'd have to go there on this particular day. And then they'll give you like a topic or something. They say, draw something.
Okay.
And then it's like hundreds of people will come, like hundreds of kids will come, draw something, and then they'll select just a few.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they'll select like maybe 30.
Out of hundreds?
Out of hundreds, They wanted kids who were really passionate about this thing. Kids who already had, because if you're passionate about art, you would spend time to build your craft, to at least show some efforts, And so they'll select, just a few.
Sorry, how old are you at this point?
I think at that point in time, I was 10 years old. I think 10 or 11.
Okay.
Yeah, years old. So I got into this, and so it would always run during the holidays, during the long-term holiday. So the first time holidays, I got into level 1 of that program. And remember we're about, 40 in class. Instructors would come. I remember one of my instructors, very, very talented guy. He was a graphic designer. And also an illustrator, like he did like really cool drawings, even though his work was more tilted towards the cartoon side. But then even so, he was very accurate in his rendering. Like he had an understanding of composition, anatomy, proportions, and all of that. He was very good. And so I think that was like the first teacher who taught us, and they'll teach us, some things, teach us, basics of art. I think that was the first time I started hearing about things like, if you want to draw a person, you start with shape, like you do a circle for the head and all of that.
And up until this point, you had art classes at school, but were you much more left to your imagination, as you say?
Yeah, well, we didn't have art classes in school. The only thing that we kind of had was like an arts club, because in our secondary schools we'd have clubs, but it wasn't part of the normal curriculum, the school. And I'd say most of the clubs were not really serious. Yeah, they were not really serious in terms of their activities and running their activities and all of that.
Again, is that down to the fact that we don't take art? It's, that's more of a fun class. It's not, we're not going to gear someone actually how to do it as a profession.
Yes.
So this guy in the Saturday classes that you got through was actually teaching you things about proportion, about drawing, about skills.
So they'll teach us that, and then they'll give us like tools. They'll give us pencils, erasers, they'll give us watercolors. I think that was the first thing we started with. And, when they teach us, they'll give us assignments. So it was a very exciting experience, and I'll always look forward to, going there. And it was not just about just going there and just going, it was about, being in the same room with other creative minds. And as a result of that, it stimulated this aspect of, I'll say, healthy competition, because when you're with other colleagues, when you're doing the same thing, it brings out something in you. You just want to be the best. You want to be at the top. So that year, when we were done with all the classes, of course, we had like our final project. You had to do like something on maybe A3 size. You had to do like a painting, anything you wanted to do. So you would do it, and then they'll organize like an exhibition. Yeah.
Do you remember what you did? It's quite a long time ago now.
Long time ago, but I think it was a bear. So I saw this image at the back of a children's book. I did that image. I think I used watercolors and color pencil. So yeah, I believe I did a bear beside a lake and with some trees. Yeah, I think there were some other things in there, but that, as far as I can remember, I think that's what I did. So we did this exhibition and, they will now come invite our parents, paintings on the walls, like a really huge hall. And
so quite the experience for a young man, young artist going, wow, my work's being exhibited.
Yeah, it was a good experience. And remember, in those classes, you had to go through class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4, class 5.
Okay.
Right. And so if you graduated from class 1, you had to move on to class 2.
Right.
The next year, of course, during the holidays. And so when I got in there, of course, we had our works on the wall. And then you also see those in class 2, their works. And then the big guys, class 5, you see they're like, oh my God, guys are amazing.
You noticeably see the difference in talent between the years.
It's different, yeah. And
did that inspire you?
A lot. It did. And they would also award prizes, the top 3 on each class. So the first year, I think I was third or second. And the second year, I was first. Third year I was first. Fourth year I was first. Then fifth year I was first as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was really an amazing experience.
And in that time, as you progressed through the years, presumably they just gave you more and more advanced techniques to work on and learn. I see.
Yeah.
So do you think that was that whole system of what you managed to get into through your art skill, which we have to remember, you had to compete against hundreds and hundreds of people just to get into the first class?
Yes. You had to compete then. Yeah.
And that was the start of instilling that drive in you.
Yeah, it did help. I remember even the second year when I was there, we graduated, they told us that, okay, if you want to get more, they were organizing like a camp. I think they called it Camp Artistique. That's in French, Camp Artistique. So they were organizing that camp in the political capital of Cameroon at Yaoundé. So what happened is that you had to go there and stay there for 3 weeks. So it was a very big building. So you meet like other artists from the different regions of Cameroon, because those programs were according to regions. So each region had like a similar program. So those who were interested would have to like pay some money, come and stay in that camp, and then they'll bring some instructors. I think we had like some instructors from France.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So like an intensive 3-week art camp. Yeah. Essentially.
So it was so nice. Like you wake up in the morning, of course you do your chores. Everybody had chores to do. You do your chores and then you come, you eat your breakfast and then you go to the class. You have to choose like whether you do watercolor painting, you do watercolor class, or you do anatomy class, or you do music, So.
And would you, throughout that 3 weeks, get to try other aspects, or did you have to stay in one?
Yeah, you could try other aspects, but the thing they were aiming for was that they didn't want to focus. Okay. I chose what I wanted to do, and we'd have the classes, and sometimes they'll take us out. I think the first project that we did, they took us to this building. It was like a very huge, like a 10-story building or so. And then put like, how do they call them? The wood, so you can climb on them.
Scaffold,
yeah. So we got on those things and then we had to like do this big mural painting. So everybody had
on
like
the side of the building?
Yeah. So everybody had like a small portion. Yeah. So it was a good experience. Yeah. So.
What an experience. So, I mean, it sounds like you've, as a young aspiring artist, got to experience more than actually most. Yeah. I mean, I can't think of many art programs or things like that we have here. It's just the basic study system. Whereas in Cameroon, it sounds like they're really facilitating big projects. You're doing murals.
Yeah. Well, I will not say it's, so it's not like Cameroon really promoted. It's just one of those few programs, that were organized by these few individuals, because the camp we went for, it was in partnership with another organization.
Right.
And this organization was mainly headed by Cameroonians who had lived abroad for a long time, and so they wanted to give back.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whether or not they were making profit from it, I mean, it's not of my concern.
No, it was giving you the drive.
Yeah, giving you the drive.
Experience.
And the experience.
Tuition.
So you couldn't ask for more. So it was a very good opportunity. And you had to they would always take us for events, like when there's an event, an art event. I remember there was like a comic event, where people, authors, illustrators, comic book artists will come and exhibit their products and all of that. And they would take us there just to have an experience, to meet those people, see the works and all of that. And So you meet some people from the art school as well, the computer programs. So you had to make new friends. You had to select different techniques, and yeah, it was a very interesting experience.
And is the work that you're creating at this time still in that illustrative comic book genre? Because I suppose we should really say, I mean, I will include some images of your work, but the work that we shared the exhibition, that was blue ballpoint pen solely, and the most beautiful sketch of the most beautiful woman.
Oh, yeah.
And that's sort of your style, right? I mean, you're a very capable artist in many, many formats. It seems watercolors, oils. I've seen you do a lot of other stuff, but that's the stuff that really stood out to me. Can you talk to me about that? Because I see that from an illustrative background, not so much a comic book. It's much more realistic, the stuff that I see. So when did you start changing or developing that style with just the biro pen or the ballpoint pen? And when did it change from more comic book style to, as I say, those beautiful, more realistic portraits?
Yeah, so that started in school, my secondary school days. Yeah, so...
Oh, of course, you said drawing in the back of the book.
The back of my book.
You're supposed to be in lessons paying attention. You've got a biro in your hand.
Yeah, I mean, and that was if it was a boring lesson, Yeah, so it's not like I wasn't taking school seriously, because I always did very well in school. But when it was a boring lesson, I didn't like... I would just draw something on the back of my book, with my biro. Of course, that's what we used to write. And then there was a point where I saw some artists doing like realistic work with biro. And I was like, wow, I could try something like this. I can do something with a biro. I remember I was also inspired by this artist. His name is Enam Bosoka. He's a Ghanaian artist. Yeah, he's based in Ghana, and he does really amazing biro drawing.
Okay.
Biro portrait drawings. And so when I saw that, I was like, well, I could do something with a biro. And so I started, drawing. I think one of the first ones I did was my portrait, a self-portrait.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I think, I can share those photos with you.
We'd love to see them and share them on the blog.
So that was the first one. So I did like a drawing of myself. So I poured water on my face, and then I did that. Shared on social media, shared on Facebook. A lot of people loved it. Like, I got a lot of feedback. People were like, wow, so you did this with a pen, And then I started doing other things, and people paid me from time to time to do portraits of them. So I do like biro, give it to them. And so portrait drawing, portrait painting, it was an easy way to make money as well, because as an artist, you wanted to earn money as well. So
how old are you making money from selling these portraits?
At that time, I was like 15 years old.
15, already making money from your art?
Yeah, 15 years old. I wouldn't say a lot of money, not a lot of money.
But surely that's a nice feeling to make any money for your art, for any artist.
Yeah, so...
Especially a 15-year-old artist.
Yeah, so I think the first one I did was like 15 years old. And even before that, so I was just exploring this medium. And the technique has actually developed, with, throughout the years. When I started, I was like, I wanted to be so very detailed, like, get like a photorealistic expression or result. But as time went on, the technique started getting better, I'd say. And I started making my lines more loose, more spontaneous, and I was more interested in captivating people's emotion. I didn't want to do a piece that you just look at and be like, oh, this is realistic. Wow. So that didn't really stand out for me anymore. So I just wanted to do something that would speak to the observer.
And is it always portraits?
Yeah, so at the start, it was mostly portrait. And then when I got to lower sit, up sit, that was in the high school. Before I got into the university, I became more interested in illustration as well. So there's always been like this shift, because I think as an artist, it's always important to explore new fields, because many people make this mistake of saying, okay, I am this kind of artist. I'm good at painting, so I'll just stick with painting. What if you were meant to do something else? What if you could be better at this other medium? So there should always be room for experimentation.
And you're quite lucky in that fact, because presumably at these camps, you were saying you're getting to experiment with watercolors.
Yes, you had to see all the things.
And different styles and different mediums.
Yeah.
But throughout that, were you always doing the biro ballpoint?
No, at that point in time, especially during the camps and all of that, I wasn't really much into biro.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't much into that. During the camp days, I would just do what I was told to do.
Yeah.
You know, like if we're doing a class on maybe drawing portraits, I would do the class on portraits with a pencil. If we're painting, I'll use watercolors to paint. I'll just experiment with the whole thing.
So what's the timeline in terms of when you see these people doing portraits? Is this after the camps?
That was after the camp.
So you've done all these camps, you've seen these incredible biro portraits by other artists after you've been doing all these other techniques.
Yeah. That was after, yeah.
So where do we go from here? Because you're doing these art camps, you're now selling as a 15-year-old or however old, selling portraits that you're doing in biro, you're experimenting.
Yeah.
In your mind at this point, even though the attitude of, say, your parents or other Cameroonian people towards being an artist, are you thinking, right, I want to be an artist? Or are you thinking, no, I've got to still gear all my studies to that quote unquote proper job?
Yeah, that's a very good question.
By the sounds of it, you're having a lot of success as an artist. And are your parents looking at you going, wow, he's doing these camps and he's doing this? Or are they still, no, engineer, accountant, banker, proper job?
Yeah. I mean, that's a very technical question. First of all, at the start, my parents, you know, they recognized the art. When I started at that art class, it was my mom who told me about it. So she heard about the opening and then she told me.
So she recognized that talent in you.
They had always recognized the talents, you know.
Even your dad after you'd drawn on his wall.
My dad as well, yeah. I mean, my mom is a teacher, though she's actually currently doing her master's. She teaches at the primary school. I would always help her with a lot of stuff, you know. But then, even though they recognize this talent, they wanted me to be serious with my academics. But I'll say that my parents have been supportive.
I hear that in a lot of people that we speak to. It's like our parents' generation want us to be safe. They want us to be secure, and they see that
exactly. So that's how they see it. Yeah. So that's how they see it. But I'll say that in terms of strategy, because when you see your child they're good at something and you see that, okay, this child does exceptionally well in this field, I think it is your responsibility to do research. Like,
nurture that talent.
Nurture that talent. Because I think sometimes our parents, you know, might recognize this thing, but they don't know how to help. They know that, okay, this other channel, going to school and becoming this is something they know. They have experience of, you know, their life experience. And so they want you to go towards that direction. And I don't blame them for that. So, yeah, so that's how it's been. And even in the midst of that, I had always been a very stubborn person. Yeah, I'd say stubborn because when I recognized that, okay, this is what I want to do, of course, I was still going to school, and all of that, because I did recognize the importance of education. But I would also always make time, you know, for my art. So when there are exhibitions or art opportunities, I would always take advantage of them. And so when I started...
How were you finding those opportunities? Was that just through the community that you'd met, the camps and all those sorts of things?
Yeah, some of them was through the communities, the people I met. Some of them, and there was a time where I started researching online for international opportunities. So there was this competition, it was a global competition, and it was called the High Art Contest. So I got into that competition, and I did this illustration of, I think it was about 5 cultural figures. We called them masquerade. So, I mean, I took my time to work on that illustration. And when I submitted this illustration, the entry was accepted. And then after some time, I think that was like after a month, you know, when the results were, I mean, it was a global competition with thousands of submissions. And they only needed 20 winners, just 20. And each winner had a cash prize. I think like the first person had like $1,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So to my greatest surprise, I remember this day, I think it was like a morning, I just opened my email and I saw a notification and I saw, congratulations, you made it to the top 20. I was like, wow. You know, I can't explain the joy I felt, you know, having my work recognized. And I think I got like $600. Well,
wow.
Yeah. I think that was I was 19 in that competition, top 20
Out of the world.
in the world. So from all the submissions.
Wow.
And it was a very tough competition. Like if you see the works, the works by the other artists were so amazing.
Really?
Yeah. So that was where I started, getting exposed to the international opportunity.
And also being recognized globally.
Yes.
Must be.
It was amazing. And it didn't end there. The next year, 2020, I got into another competition. I think that was during the COVID period,
Okay.
And that year as well, in the midst of the lockdown, during that period, we also had like some problems in Cameroon. There was a war. So, a lot of people died during that time.
Wow.
So it was a conflict between the government and a group, mostly from the English speaking side of Cameroon. So it was, the discrimination against the English speaking of Cameroon and all of that. It caused a lot of problems. I think that started during my university days when I was 2017.
Because at university, you didn't study art, did you?
Yeah. So the first thing I did was computer science.
Yes.
So, finished 2017, even though in that war. And I'll just come back to the 2020.
Yeah.
2020, when I got into that competition, there was still lockdown, of course, during that time because of the COVID. So I got into this competition. It was organized by the United Nations and by the United Nations Refugee Agency. So they were doing this global contest to allow people to submit their work. So it didn't matter whether you were an artist or whatever. So they wanted you to create work, a piece, because during that period, a lot of refugees around the world were neglected. They couldn't receive like food aid, couldn't receive like support, because of the, all the restrictions and all of that. So they wanted us to create a piece of art that would inspire people to support this refugee, create art that would, amplify this message to show these refugees in this, vulnerable situation. So I did an illustration of this group of refugees who were in the midst of war. And then there was like a helicopter from distance coming, with aid. So I did this illustration and then I represented the COVID as this plague, that had come into the world. But then when I submitted, I won the competition actually. I did win the competition because there were 5 or 7 global winners. Yeah. So I was one of the winners and each of them was from like different countries, Germany, France, USA, one from Cameroon. I think there were 2 from Cameroon actually. It was so amazing, the feeling I had, to get this level of recognition.
I was going to say, along this journey, you've had quite a lot of recognition from your work, early competition wins, being accepted onto these art camps and these projects and things like that. But this is what takes me back to 2017 when you're still going to university, but presumably under the guise of, your parents wanting you to get that education, you took to computer science, is it?
Yeah, I did computer science, yeah.
You haven't had the 2020 accolade, but you've had lots of previous accolades. I'm just wondering what your mindset is when you're going to university to do computer science, but you've already been quite recognized for the talent that you've got as an artist. Were you slightly disgruntled that you were going to university to study computer sciences as opposed to art and creativity?
I was. I had the option to do all the things, study art. But then the problem was I didn't want to study art in Cameroon because I just didn't believe that we had good schools. Because I had friends who were in the art schools in Cameroon. I just didn't want to go there. I just didn't want to study art in Cameroon. I wanted to maybe study art and design. I just wanted to study art out of the country. So I brought that option to my parents and we looked at it and we were trying to go through scholarships and all of that. And the fees were too much. The fees were so much.
Where were you looking? In UK, Europe?
Yeah, I was looking at UK. I was looking at America.
And as foreign students, then you have to pay a lot more for your tuition fees.
Yeah, a lot of money.
Yeah.
And my parents just couldn't afford it. And so I had no choice. So I'm like, okay, I'll do computer science because that's one of the subjects I did very well at when I was in the high school. So, and I also saw it as a way to incorporate the digital side into my art, explore, this science in a different form. So,
and did you get to do much of that within the computer science degree, or was it slightly different to you thought it would be?
I got to do a lot, but then there were a lot of things that happened that make it go the way I planned for it to, to go, especially the crisis that we had in Cameroon. So when it started, like, we couldn't continue with classes, all the instability. I remember when we started, we were about 33 of us in class. And by the time we finished, we were 10. Wow. Yeah. I mean, some of my classmates left the country, some stopped totally. And
how were you feeling at that point? What were you mixed up in any of these conflicts, or were you just trying to be a student?
There's a lot of things going on in my mind, honestly. It was a tough period. Yeah, it was a tough period.
Can you talk more about that?
Yeah.
Are you seeing friends, family, or people you know affected by this?
Yeah, I mean,
presumably the whole country is affected by
the whole country. It was mostly the English-speaking regions, because that's where the war was actually going on. Most people in the French side had no idea what was going on. Like, they just knew that, okay, these guys are fighting.
And where are you based? Sorry, in the geographical area. Are you in the French or are you in the English?
No, at that time I was in the English region.
Okay.
Which is the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon.
Right.
So that's the English region. So I was in the southwest region of,
so directly affected by all of this.
Directly affected. Even though it was more intense in local areas, like in the villages. Yeah. So the wars were more intense there. I mean, lots of people died. Lots of people died, innocent people. Homes were burned down. Children were killed. It was very sad. I had friends who lost their parents, who lost other friends, who lost their brothers and sisters. I even have some family members who were affected. At that point in time, sometimes we would go to the village, like especially during Christmas period, like we'd go there, put, palm fronts, create like canopies, and then we'd sit together as a community and just prepare food and just have a great time. But we couldn't do that anymore because the villages became desolate. People left the villages, people died, and, a lot of people as well, like younger people, like joined separatist group. So a lot of things happened, during that period. I was caught in this dilemma of, should I continue with my studies? Should I do masters? Where should I go to? Where do I go from here and all of that? So it was a very difficult period, honestly, especially to me, my mind, and seeing what was going on. And that was 2017. So 2018, my parents, we moved to the French region because of course it was safer there. So we moved to the French region and we stayed there, for a year. My parents stayed there for a year. And then from there.
Did you feel safer there? Did you feel more settled there? Or was this you've moved?
It was safer.
It's nothing right?
Yeah, it was safer, but I didn't like the place, honestly. I didn't like the place. We couldn't explore a lot. It was a very local area. Few houses here and there, very scanty. I mean, it's not like a city where you could go there, you get opportunities and all of that.
And are you producing any art at this time? I mean, or is your mind just not in the place where you want to, or is your mind in a place where it's affecting the art that you're creating?
I was producing art mainly for commercial work. I always get projects time to time. I was working as a freelancer as well. So.
Okay, can you say more about some of those projects?
Yeah.
What sort of projects are you getting?
In illustration.
Okay.
Like children illustrations. I'll get projects and comic book illustrations.
Again, how? Is this just through the arts community that you
that was online.
Before you went to online you're getting?
That was online. I'll get those opportunities online. So I was working for like some of those freelancing sites like Upwork.
Okay, of course.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and the response I got to the work was really nice. I mean, to the point where I even became a top-rated illustrator on Upwork.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So I really made a lot from there as well.
So you've really pushed your artwork, but yet still you were studying computer sciences, ticking the box.
Yeah. So it's always been like that. And
so how did that sit then? You've moved to the French region of Cameroon. You don't feel settled. You don't like the place. Where do we go from there?
So from there, I went to another university. So I moved back to the northwest region of Cameroon because I just didn't like the place.
Okay.
I wanted to just go out there and just explore and just do something with the art. So I met with this friend and we decided to move to the political capital of Cameroon, that Yaoundé. So I met with this friend. He's into movies, so he produces films and all of that. And he was still starting at the time, so we decided to, borrow some money. So I borrowed some money from my parents. We went there, rented a house. Wrong approach. We rented a house. We paid the rent. So we paid like 3 months. We had no chairs, nothing. We just had a mattress, a bed. I mean, I'm talking about moving to a new city. Yaoundé is a big city. We moved to a new city. You don't know anybody. I've never, gone to a place before. I've never stayed alone on my own. So I went there with this guy, with this friend. We stayed in that apartment. Every day we just go out, just try to attend a program, try to do maybe live drawings, try to make some money. Yeah, it was
Almost doing street art style busking?
I mean, like literally we didn't know anybody.
Right.
Because it's different when you at least know people, when you at least know where you are. At least I'm here. I know that, okay, I can maybe exhibit the gallery. I can submit for open calls. I can do this. But there, you're not aware of the opportunities. So you have to first of all try to go out there and know people and find out what opportunities are out there and figure things out. So trying to figure things out.
Was that exciting or nerve-wracking?
It was nerve-wracking. It wasn't exciting. I mean, before I left, I was like, oh, it's exciting. I mean, it's like, went there. It was very difficult. So at some point, I just realized that the environment was not conducive. It wasn't conducive at all. And so I now left Yaoundé and went to Bamenda. And then I got into a program. So I went back into the university. So there was this special program that the Department of Art was doing. So they wanted more people to get into the department. So they were doing a special program where they would condense the curriculum for arts and art history into a single year. So when I was in Bamenda, I opened a studio there. So with another friend, and he was doing photography and all of that. So, and printed some of my work. At that time, of course, I started doing my pen portraits, put it on the wall. So I had like a small gallery display there as well. So, and my friend set up his studio at the back. He had his camera and all of that. So we rented this place and yeah, it was going well. I mean, I will not say too well because that area too had its own challenges. Remember, we're also in the midst of the crisis. Literally every day you hear gunshot.
Of course, yeah, because you've moved back to...
Yeah. Like you'll be going to school and you hear gunshot. You're going to school, military cars are passing every day. Every 5 minutes a car passes. Sometimes you can see like a dead person on the road. Wow. Somebody. So you had all those challenges, and so,
and you're there trying to be creative or
trying to be creative. So one day, there was this lecturer from this department, visual arts and art history. So he was passing by and he saw the studio and he was like, wow. So my friend called me.
He knew you. He didn't
know me.
He didn't know you.
So
you weren't on this course at this point?
At that point, I wasn't on this course.
Oh, I see. So this is how you get onto the right.
Yeah. So he just came and saw the studio. I'm like, wow. And then he was so impressed with what he saw. And then he told me about the opportunity.
Oh, I see.
He told me, okay, I would like you to come to the department. I was like, why not? So I got into the department, visual art and art history.
How does it work for students out there? Do you have to pay for this for the year?
Yeah, of course you have to pay. Yeah, you have to pay. But the fees were not too much. I mean, fees, Cameroon university fees it's not a lot. The government also tries to, get some incentive so that everybody's able to afford for university.
That's great.
Yeah. Unless you're talking about things like masters, because some master's programs are really costly. I mean, I was making some money, so I paid for my studies there, completed the program while we're still managing the studio.
What do you think that program sort of did for you and the inclusion of art history within that?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a love of art, but you haven't studied art in that sense.
Yeah. I'd say the program helped me, but it wasn't as effective as I thought it was going to be. And I think it was also because of the crisis as well.
What, in terms of you're not able to learn the way you probably would normally would because of everything that's going on in the region.
Everything that was going on. Sometimes it wasn't safe to do practicals and all of that. So it mostly helped me in the side of, understanding the importance of art history and also how to analyze art. Like, I remember there was this course that we did where you would have to even like paint to like, describe. It was called visual art criticism. It taught me how to, because that was something I always wanted to learn. Like, I'm like, stand in front of the art and just explain and say, okay, this, the colors, this, the composition and all of that. I was like, so I wanted to learn that. So when I did that course, I was so excited. I was like, oh, I mean, if this is the only course for this program, I'll be happy. So I did it, and it really helped me.
Are you creating as well within this course? Or is it more just a theory of art and art history?
It was mostly theory.
Okay.
Yeah, it's mostly theory.
But I think, you've had a lot of practical experience on your journey up to this point.
Yes, yeah.
Competition, workshops, camps.
Yeah.
Accolades, even selling your work as a 15-year-old, getting a bit older, having your own gallery space with your friend that you're putting your pieces in.
Yeah.
I mean, as I say, you've gained quite a lot of art experience for someone that hasn't actually geared their career towards art.
Yeah, honestly, as compared to my other poets, they were, yeah.
I'm comparing you to a lot of artists that I know in this country and other countries that I know.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that's down to you and your dedication to your art and wanting to really push yourself.
Yeah, I've always been very pushful.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing I know about myself. I'm always very pushful, especially when it comes to my art. I mean, that's why I came to the UK in the first place.
Okay, shall we talk about that? How did you come to be in the UK? Have we jumped forward at the end of this art year, this art history?
Yeah.
Where are you there? You've still got
from
your gallery
there,
with your friend?
I was done with my studies there, so I thought to myself, it's time to move out of Bamenda because, I mean, it was not just the right environment anymore. I mean, what was going on and all of that. When the electrical out, sometimes you have electricity from 7 a.m. to 12, and then they take it away. So those are some of the challenges we had. So I moved out of there, went to Yaoundé, back to Yaoundé. So I was renting an apartment there. Of course, I was doing my illustration and all of that, my online work. And, yeah, so I didn't stay very long in Yaoundé. I think I just did like a couple of years.
But at this point, you're making your source of income is from your freelance artwork.
Yes. That was
illustration work.
That was the main source of income.
It's not from your computer science degree.
No, it's not. It's not from the computer science. I've made good money, like for an average Cameroon, And even with the opportunities I had, even the competition I won also led to other opportunities. Like it led me to other projects with them where they actually paid me like, I was like the millions of Cameroonian currency fancy every. So it really helped me to, do a lot of things. So when I went back to Yaoundé, I made like about 2 years there. And then before coming here, I'll get to that. Mm-hmm. So while in Yaoundé, an idea came to me. Why not run a workshop, like run an art workshop for kids, teach them creative skills I have. So immediately I remember I was sitting on my table, and when the idea just came, I was like, it's time to do this. So the next week I left, went back to the Southwest region, and then got a friend who also does art, got my brothers, some of my younger brothers. So I got them together, planned the workshop. Yeah, went printed flyers. And, since it was the first workshop we were doing, we had to break the barrier. What I mean is, remember, we have this environment of not welcoming such things. And especially when you're doing something like that for the first time, parents want to trust you. They were like, shall I send my kids? You have to convince the parent, to allow their kid to come to the workshop. So what we did was that we saw that just putting this thing online was not going to be enough. And of course, we put like a small fee because, of course, you had to buy a lot of things, materials, and I also had to pay those I was drinking for their time. And so here's how we did our publicity. We went to more than 100 homes, like physically went to more than 100 homes. And remember, this was still the period of the lockdown, even though it wasn't that intense, but we went to like different streets, like knocked the door, spoke to the parents, gave the flyer. And there would always ask this question, how much is it? Really, it was a small fee. But then, trying to convince somebody to spend money for this, it's something they didn't really believe much in. It was difficult to get them to spend that money.
Again, goes back to the starving artist. Why do I pay for my kid to do an art workshop when I want them to be an engineer?
Yeah. Yeah. So we went there, and at the end of the day, we had 15 kids enrolled for the workshop. So we trained them, taught them some skills and all of that. And after some time, we did an exhibition, invited parents,
So similar to how you came through, you giving back.
Yeah.
Did that feel rewarding?
It was very rewarding, very nice. So we invited parents, they came, had a good time, spoke about the art, or the kids playing, spoke about their art and all of that. It was very nice. You give certificates, just something to show that you're part of something like this before. And it was very fulfilling.
Well, look what that did for you.
Yeah.
Being, your mum finding those courses for you for competitions and camps and things like that.
Yeah.
That did wonders for you and your art.
Yeah.
So you guys giving back.
Yeah. So
must have been pretty special.
And I think that was the year I started making plans to, move to the UK.
Okay. So talk to me about that. Why the UK as opposed to, when you were looking to study, you were looking in other European countries, America even. Why the UK?
So I'll just start with how the opportunity came. First of all, the opportunity was presented to my dad, who learned about the opportunity to come to the UK, as a healthcare assistant, because it was affiliated to the work visa, because, the UK government, they needed more international workers because there was a deficit of workers in the health sector. So, and my dad told me, and he was like, no, I mean, this is going to be a good opportunity for you to, go there for your art. And I was like, why not? Why not? Because I've always been a person of purpose. Like, if something doesn't align to, what I believe is my purpose, it doesn't align. Even if it's a good opportunity, I wouldn't take it. So I just thought that at that point in time, I just thought like Cameroon wasn't the right place for me.
Oh, and at this point, what do you believe your purpose is?
Well, my purpose is in line with the art, right? But then there's something I always believe. I believe everybody is born to express, the beauty of the creator. Because there is a scripture that resonates with me that I really love so much. That says that you are God's workmanship. So I always believe that everybody on this earth is created for a purpose. And that purpose is not maybe going to, having a successful career, getting married, having a good family, and then, dying. And it ends there. That for me, it doesn't sound like something of purpose to me, When I think of people like, Mother Teresa, Martin Luther, those were purpose-driven people. These are people who fought for something. Either it's for the betterment of humanity or it's to solve a problem. Sometimes your purpose could just be to change some lives, to make some people's lives better. So I've always thought about that.
It's interesting. You come up from a religious standpoint, but people on the podcast will be bored of hearing this. Your talent plus helping people equals your purpose.
Yeah.
So that's sort of what I've interpreted from that scripture. You think the talents that you're ordained with, you need to highlight and pass forward. And that's what you did the workshops. You've been doing that throughout your whole artistic career.
Yeah. And I think that should resonate with, our actions. Everything you do should resonate with, your purpose. Right. So if I'm coming here, doing my artwork, okay, if I make money from the art, like, what do I do? Am I supposed to organize more workshops for kids to grow? Or am I supposed to share opportunities to other people? Am I supposed to, make people's lives better? Yeah, that kind of thing. And that's why I always believe that you spoke about, coming from this standpoint, because I believe, it's true. Everybody works with a purpose, right? Everybody's doing something. Everybody has an agenda. And whether or not you know what that agenda is, you are working with an agenda. And you might just find out at the end of maybe at the end of 50 years or 40 years or whatever it is that we're not on the right agenda. We're wasting a lot of time. I've spoken to a lot of people and I said, why are you here? Like, I don't know. Say things that like you don't know who you are, and for me it's troubling, so, just getting back to coming here. So
you were looking at the working healthcare visa, not to work in healthcare, but more for your art.
Yeah. So that was a bigger picture. That's what I was seeing. So, that was December 2022. So I came over to the UK. So I got into the country and, started working in the healthcare sector.
Where did you come to Birmingham straight away?
The flight landed in London, then, took a bus, came to Birmingham.
But the job that you were lined up was always in Birmingham?
Yes, in Birmingham. So that's how I started doing this.
So what did you have to do for this job? Because again, presumably in the back of your mind, you're going, I want to produce art. But then once again, you bravely picked yourself up, put you into a whole new environment, environment, climate, everything. Yeah. And then going into be a full-time job.
Yeah.
To be in healthcare because of your visa.
Yeah. It's a new field. I mean, healthcare is not something I've really done professionally before. Even though, of course, I've helped family members. Of course, you've had people being sick, you help them out and all of that. I mean, we have that culture back home. But then when I moved here, I mean, getting to do the job, of course, I know that it is linked to my visa. And so I have to make sure that I fulfill all of the requirements of the job, first of all, not before anything else. And that's what I've been doing. And so when I'm not working on the job, all right, I see how to strategize for my art, how to get into exhibitions, how to get myself out there and prepare the ground.
And how did you find that moving to the UK? Did you find that there was more opportunities for art? Because you've done lots of group shows. That's how we've met. You've won prizes. You've really pushed your art despite being in that full-time job, which shows to me again the drive that you have towards your purpose.
Yeah.
Did you find the opportunities different in the UK?
Yeah, of course, it's different. There's more opportunities.
There was more.
More, yeah.
Okay.
Of course, more opportunities. And even from a global standpoint, because and if you have to ship your work, you can easily do that. Anyway, I've never been on a residency before, but if you have to go for a residency, you can easily do that. You process your visa, but it's not easy to do that from Cameroon.
Right.
You have all those kind of things, So yeah, obviously here the opportunities were more pronounced as compared to Cameroon. Yeah.
So can you tell me a bit what sort of opportunities are presenting themselves to you? What are you doing with your art and how are you feeling? Because your time is now being monopolized by a full-time job.
Yeah. So that's a good question. I mean, I know that it's just going to be for a moment. I mean, what I'm going through right now is just going to be for a moment. And despite having to battle this idea in your mind that, okay, I'm doing something that I'm not supposed to do, but I just know that that's what makes us, the challenges and the experiences. That's just what makes us who we are. And I just think that it is another opportunity for me to just learn. I mean, just to learn and to see how I can fight my way to the next level. Yeah. So I just see everything as an opportunity. Because I know that there's so many people who are in worse situation than I. It's something to be grateful for.
Yeah. There's an element of gratitude, obviously.
Yeah. It's an element of gratitude. And I would say that one of the things that really keeps me going too is the people that I meet. Because I've met I meet people being able to meet people. I mean, meeting you, of course, just coming on your podcast and talking to you. And I mean, earlier on, you showed me some paintings, you showed me some of your work and all of that. And I really found that very inspiring, and just sitting with you as well, all the experiences you've gotten, photography and all of that and all the things that you've done, for me, it's something to be grateful for.
Well, I'm very grateful that you agreed to sit down with the podcast. I think your story is fantastic. So.
You're just being humble.
But no, I do appreciate that. But as I say, that's why I find doing the podcast so interesting. Because I get to meet so many interesting people with so many different backgrounds, histories that have all got at the crux.
Yeah.
Some sort of inspiring story or some sort of creativity or some sort of something that gets me that I want to know more about. And that's all it is. Just allowing people to tell their story. And I think, man, this is an interesting story. So you're working full time. What are the sort of aspirations now for your art? What are the goals? What would you like to achieve? What is the next step for you?
So the next step is trying to get into the art space fully. What I mean by that is, obviously, with my current job, of course, there's a lot of restrictions with time, certain things you cannot do. But then I'm working on a visa switch because I learned of a visa that is more, I'll say more related to what I'm doing, called the Global Talent Visa. So this visa is actually for creative individuals because there's two of them. There's one for the tech, another one for the creative arts, art and culture. So I'm trying to work on that. And this visa has, a list of documents, requirements that you have to fulfill.
Because obviously that instantly for me sits much more with you than a healthcare visa.
Yeah, of course.
To emphasize.
Yeah, that'll be ideal. So, yeah.
And are you on a timeline for that? When does the visa that you're currently on stop? And when would you have to have your global talent visa application?
I think about 6-7 months from now.
Oh, wow. That quickly.
Yeah, 6-7 months from now, after which it has to be renewed. But obviously, I have to do the application way before that will be expired.
So are you in the process of that now?
Yes, I'm in the process of putting the documents together and all of that. So once I have everything together, then I'm hoping to make the application by latest April.
How are you feeling about that? Because obviously, is that quite nerve-wracking, having all your future in the hands of someone else?
Yeah, it is. I just want to remain hopeful, and I do believe that having that visa would really help. Because this is not to sound boastful, but then, I just believe there is a lot that is inside of me in terms of expression, things that people have never seen before, in terms of my art and all of that. But I just believe that there is a lot more I can do, a lot more excellence that I can display. Given the opportunity and the time.
And what will that visa allow? If you're on a global talent visa, will they give you some sort of funding to accentuate that talent that you've got, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the global talent visa has just very few restrictions, but then with that visa you can get any job you want to get. One of the requirements too is that you must be consistent with your practice. Even if you get the job and anywhere you want to get, you must be consistent with your practice. You can start a business if you want to. You can move in and out of the country. Maybe you're going for a residency, you're going for, art programs and all that. You can go at any time you want to go.
Well, I'm a firm believer in words having power. So when you get this visa, what will be your plan?
So first of all, when I get the visa, I like to organize some solo exhibitions, create large-scale painting. Because of course, when I get it, I'll have enough time. I have a lot of time.
So paintings, not.
I'll do paintings and drawings.
Paintings and drawings.
Yeah, I'm not going to stop the biro drawings. I have a place in my heart.
But you want to explore more than
I explore more, yeah. So I've always been doing painting and drawing as well.
Yeah.
So I just it's just a medium, a way to express my creativity, So I like
I saw some really beautiful stuff on your social media, really bold colours. I don't know whether it was, but it was interesting for me because obviously a lot of the work that I've seen is your ballpoint biro work. And then I was like, wow, look at the colours and the vibrancy in that. Brilliant. Amazing.
Yeah, that's why I was interested in the colour of the print earlier. So,
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see how I can incorporate that. So I like to do very large scale solo exhibitions.
Portraits still though. Would you have a topic?
Not portrait.
Interesting.
Well, it's going to have portrait, but contemporary arts, contemporary portrait. Something that will tell a story.
Okay. What do you mean by contemporary portraits? Obviously, I know what a portrait is, but what I'm trying to get to is what are you trying to express? What's in your head?
Yeah. So I'm very interested in, talking about world issues, things that are happening in the society. Whether it's what is going on in Cameroon, the war I told you about during the time, expressing that in a painting, expressing, ideas like hope. And I also like to express aspects of my culture, Cameroonian culture, like aspects of that culture, and also include aspects of, the British culture, the culture where, of course, I live here in the UK, and I'll incorporate that as well. Of course, my skin is brown, so express those stories. I think that I'm doing it in a contemporary style. Of course, I like doing realistic work, but then I also like bold color blocks, and all of that,
Yeah.
so it's just a way of just adding to my painting that aspect of spontaneity that I have with my viral drawing as well. Because in my viral drawings, I aim for spontaneity, I aim for motion, The review I get, most people, they tell me that when they see the viral drawing, it makes them want to come closer. When they stand from a distance, it looks like this perfect figure. But then when they come closer, the lines tell them a different story. The lines are crossed in different directions, and you see some sort of struggle, and you see how that struggle comes together, make something beautiful. And so I just like to incorporate different ideas of what message I like to pass on with my painting. And I just think that I can't express that alone, just the viral drawings. Of course, the viral drawings have their place, but then if I want to be more expressive in terms of color, in terms of gradients and all of that, then I just think solo exhibitions with these contemporary paintings, would be very helpful.
I think that's interesting. It's representing the struggle. And I think we talk a lot about on the podcast about how we're a product of our inputs.
Yeah.
We can only output what we've experienced in our inputs. Man, you've got a lot of experiences there. I really love the idea of expressing world issues, because in the particular lies the universal, in the sense that the issues that you and I both go through, somewhere in the mix will be,
Exactly.
we're humans.
Exactly.
We all go through those issues.
We go through those things. Yeah.
I can't wait to see how that manifests.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
I can tell you were excited when you were talking about it, although it must be hard to explain a project to someone that you haven't really managed you haven't got your teeth into as such yet.
There's a lot I can offer in terms of the culture of the United Kingdom. I mean, that's one of the requirements of the visa I spoke about as well, being able to contribute to the culture. So I just think that there is a lot that I can contribute. And here I am, an artist from a very tough background, humble background, trying to get to a point where he can create freely and just being able to express himself without any limitations. So
in your time spent in the UK, what do you feel like some of the issues that you might want to address visually might be?
Oh, that's a very good question. One of the things I like to express is, I mean, in the UK, I realize there's a lot of mental health issues. I think this comes from the fact that a lot of people are become so isolated. We humans, we are not meant to be isolated. No, we are meant to work in groups. We're meant to interact with each other.
We're a social beast.
We're a social being. Yeah. Like you rightly said. So that's one of the issues I like to express in my paintings.
So you see mental health as an issue in the UK. Is it not so much in Cameroon? And if so, why not, do you think? What parallels do you draw?
When I say mental health issues, like when I was in Cameroon back home, I'd never heard about, things like we'll talk about dementia. I never heard of the term dementia back home. I don't know anybody who has dementia back home. I've never heard about it.
Wow, that's interesting. Why do you think?
Yeah. So
that's got to be lifestyle.
Yeah. So, cause we eat more healthy, I'll say. It's a fact. Because almost everybody has a farm. Most of our products are organic. Because I mean here, like most of the food that we buy, we are mainly in sachets, like boxes and all of that processed food. Mm-hmm. But most of what we consume back home is organic. So it's more natural. It's more helpful to the body. So I think those are one of the things that, might contribute to that. Healthy, feeding.
Yeah. I'm a big component about the stuff we put in our bodies now. And
yeah.
It just seems like a no-brainer to me that is the root cause of most of people's illnesses. I'm not a doctor for anyone listening to this. And that's just my personal opinion on things. So I'm not commenting on it in anyone's health in any way, but that's interesting in terms of the natural foods that we eat in Cameroon and Africa and saying, and never heard of dementia before you came here. That's crazy.
Never heard of dementia.
Wow.
Honestly. I'd heard about autism, just one or two cases there, but it was still very rare. Still very rare. And I would say, I mean, the UK is a very nice place in terms of, I'd say, in terms of development. It's very developed. If you go to Cameroon, in a lot of African countries, because it's very different. And that's what happens when you don't have systems that have been put into place. to address some of these issues. Here, I think that people have done a great job in setting up systems that work. If you speed on the road, you go too fast, the speed camera gets you and, maybe you're fine. If you park on the wrong place, you're fine. If you express some kind of aggressive behavior in public, the law comes into place. So I think that here, that job it's well done. But, the area that I would just like to aspect is more interaction, people coming together, organizing more programs that they can just come and talk, share their experiences, and just bring out that, what word can I use? Yeah, but you know what I mean? Yeah, that community.
Sense of that we're all in this together.
Exactly.
We're all human beings, no matter what background we come from, no matter what economic status, what ethnicities.
Yeah.
We're all human beings with blood pumping through our veins and hearts. And
anyway, for those asking that, okay, why are we talking about this thing? Well, these things it's part of the art. If I were to ask you, when was the last time you spoke to your neighbor? How often do you see them?
I see what you mean. I'm very lucky with me and my neighbours. We're quite a close-knit. We always chat, but I understand exactly what you said. There is no sense of community.
There's no sense of community.
Whereas 20 years ago, you'd know every single person on your street. Oh my God,
yeah. In my village, in Cameroon, where I live, my parents' house, the whole quarter, a radius of about maybe let's say 10 kilometers, everybody knows each other. Everybody knows, your neighbor. If you don't see your neighbor for 5 days, you're like, what's going on? Where is he? Or where is she?
Then you might go and check on them and see if everything's all right. Yeah.
In my childhood days, run around, just get into your neighbor's house and you sit and just watch some TV and, you go out, you have poverties out there, just climb there, get some flavors. So those are things that make us happy, bring that sense of fulfillment, that sense of community, like you said. So
I think it's very interesting, the difference in lifestyle, and there's goods and bad.
Yeah, there's goods and bad, of course,
isn't there? We have a lot of negative things about our society, but we also have wonderful things. And that's the same with everywhere, isn't it?
Of course, yeah.
So Ispah, I think we've covered a lot in this, and your story and aspirations for the future and all those things. But we do have a closing tradition on the Creative Nowhere Land podcast. I like our guests to leave our listeners with some sort of quote that resonates with you, but also a suggestion of a guest, someone in your network that you think might be an interesting person to come onto the Creative Nowhere Land podcast. So you can tackle them in any order you like.
I'll start with a guest. So, I'd recommend this lady. Her name is Christine Glory. She's a public speaker, a writer. She has a very interesting story.
Do you think she will agree to coming on the podcast?
Yeah, I think she would.
Okay, great.
Yeah, she would.
Why are you suggesting her? Who is she to you?
So she's a friend. So I got to know her here when I came to the UK. So she was born in Uganda, right? And she was born in the midst of war. Lots of people died. And when she was born, 2 hours later, her village was attacked. And her parents had to flee with her. Then she was able to, move from there, from Germany to the UK. She's been through a lot. And now and also, she wrote a book recently. One of them was titled The Overcoming Fear, another one as well. So she's been pretty well. So
pretty inspiring character.
Yeah. So I just like her story. Her story is very interesting. So yeah.
Amazing. And then go on then, Ispah. What about some sort of quote or something inspiring to leave our list?
There is this quote. Do I have to say who it's from? I don't think I recall.
That's all right. We could always do some Googling afterwards to find out who the quote is from.
Yeah. So there's this quote that I usually include in some of my videos. It says, "Make every moment a masterpiece."
Make every moment a
masterpiece. Yeah. So
what does that mean to you?
It's one of those quotes that just gets you thinking. It just makes you more aware of every moment, it just gets you in there, more conscious of every moment,
more present.
Yeah. So it just gets you asking the question that every moment that presents itself, what can I do? What should I do? What impact can I make? How can I make myself better? How can I do this to the best of my abilities? Because I'm talking about a masterpiece. A masterpiece is that work that you put your energy and you put your heart in it and you put all of your excellence in it and you're proud of. So can you make that moment? Can you be proud of that moment? Can you say that you're giving it your all? Can you say that you're put your best in it? Can you say that that moment can be counted as meaningful, and not just a waste of time, not just a waste of effort? So there's a lot in that short statement. Yeah.
Make every moment a
masterpiece. Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic place to end it. Ispah, thank you so much for being a guest on the Creative No One podcast. Your story is very interesting, very inspiring. And if there's anything we can do to help with the global talent visa, even if it's just forwarding the podcast on to someone, let us know, because I think you're an incredible talent, an exceptional talent, a lovely man. And just very grateful for you agreeing to come on the podcast.
Oh, and thank you so much, Matt. Thank you so much for having me. I've had an amazing time, honestly. And thank you so much. And I look forward to the next guest who are going to be on your podcast. And also, congratulations on the recent award you had on the podcast.
We've been nominated for an award. Yes, we have been nominated. I'm not sure when this will go out, so I'm deep in the process of trying to get people to vote for said award. But we have been nominated for award, which is pretty impressive, really.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind, I think at the point of nomination, we'd only done 12 episodes.
Just 12 episodes. I mean, that's impressive. I mean, that's really impressive.
Well, thank you very much. But this is not about me. It's about you. And I just want to, once again, thank you, mate. It's an amazing story. And I hope everyone listening checks out your work, and we'll include links in the show notes. And I wish you all the best of luck in the future, mate.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Noah Land podcast. If you found anything inspiring or useful in this episode, please consider subscribing or maybe sharing the episode with a friend. Anything you can do to help promote and support Creative Noah Land is so beneficial, and I really appreciate it. Check out the website and sign up to the newsletter to be the first to know of everything that's going on here in Creative Noah Land. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, explore, inspire, and create.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?